Hey everyone, it's Chris here with Zone Zero California, and in this video I'm at the intersection of Mulholland Drive and Topanga Canyon Boulevard. Now, as with all the videos in this series, I'm visiting all of these what could be considered iconic or well-known intersections to highlight and visually take you, the viewer, to what's known as the very high fire hazard severity zones in Los Angeles County for now. Los Angeles specifically here. And so this is to raise awareness. This is to raise awareness about where these very high fire hazard severity zones are and what they look like, because maybe it's a little bit more obvious in places like Calabasas or Topanga, away from the city, where we can understand what the term wildland-urban interface really means. You know, it's a little bit more suburban here, but nevertheless, this is in the middle of a very high fire hazard severity zone as designated by CAL FIRE. I'm getting these locations off the maps provided by CAL FIRE, and we are in the middle of the red zone. Very high fire hazard severity zones are the most dangerous of the severity zones as they're ranked. If you look at a map, this is essentially all a red area as compared to white, yellow, or orange. So this is to raise awareness. Now, if you live in Topanga Canyon, in the area, you're probably more acutely aware than other people, perhaps, that you are in a very high fire hazard severity zone, or just how dangerous or high the risks of damage by wildfires are to you by being a member of this community. But we're trying to raise awareness with everyone in California because this has to do with Zone Zero regulations. What is Zone Zero? Zone Zero is the 0 to 5 feet around any home or property or structure, okay? And these regulations deal with the combustible materials in that area and the building materials in that area. So while it may seem obvious, right, these regulations say, for instance, now you can no longer store firewood or have flammable patio furniture within that 0 to 5 feet around the property. And it also refers to landscaping, right? So you can't let old dry leaves pile up, for instance. But beyond that now, they're gonna have more strict regulations and rules. You might even need to go so far as to replacing your landscaping. And that's been some of the biggest pushback we've heard through this regulatory process from members in the community, right? Not just is the cost something your homeowners are now being expected to burden, but what about the loss of shade, right? What about if you have a tree? For instance, we were in Beechwood Canyon yesterday, and we saw dozens of homes where there were palm trees right next to the building. Are those going to need to be replaced? Possibly. You know, these trees, you know, don't just add to quality of life, but they provide shade, and shade is a natural way to cool your home without bearing a higher electricity cost. So those are some of the concerns around this regulatory process that we've heard and seen. What else will Zone Zero refer to? Well, obviously it'll refer to your old wood fence or deck, especially if it abuts the house. Listen, I'm looking at a house right across the street that's got an old redwood gate right next to the house. That's going to need to be replaced, all right? And listen, I don't want to really call out any two specific homes. I'm not here to do that, but I do usually drive around for just a few minutes after I record these videos to show you just like how big the scale of the problem is, how many homes this will affect, how many people this will affect, right? So, you know, the houses, you may have a lot of space on your lot from front to back, but side to side, you may be within 10 feet of your neighbor, which means that 5-foot line in between you down the middle, if you've got an old wood fence, that's going to need to be replaced. And maybe the two of you might have to consider collaborating to split the costs on that. What else is it going to refer to? It's going to refer to your decks. Now, in Hollywood, for example, we drove around and saw an apartment building, and all of their patios had wood railings. That's going to need to be replaced. Now, with what? Does it have to be metal? Not necessarily. You know, decking is also another thing to be considered here, right? Your decks might be next to your home, and if you have an old redwood deck or cedar wood deck, that might need to be replaced. But you can replace it with approved building materials such as Caillou Batu. I saw a report from a fence contractor earlier this week that showed CAL FIRE had approved Caillou Batu as a wood material, a hardwood, suitable for building. So there are options There are other types of wood, but I would say if you definitely have a redwood or cedar fence, gate, or deck, or siding, that is something you're gonna have to start thinking about possibly replacing. So I just mentioned siding. Again, this house I'm looking at, they got a wood fence, they got wood siding, right? Man, imagine if you were told by the state, or even worse, your insurance company, hey, we're not gonna renew you, or we're not gonna approve you maybe you're new to the area and you just bought a home and you're going to get insurance on it, and they're saying, no, we're not gonna approve your insurance policy because you have too much at risk because of the building materials used on this home. Now, the last component would be roofing. I'm not too much of a roofing guy, but as this process goes on and as I make more content, I'm sure I'm gonna learn more about that. So I have more information to share with you. But you know, that's kind of it. I am gonna drive just a little bit around the neighborhood here. I'll show you this one house I'm talking about in particular. I got 2 resources for you folks. Zone 0 California. I've got lots of information there, as well as a way to get in touch with local contractors in your area. We are trying to prioritize vendors who are approved on the Fire Safe Council vendor list. And then I also started a school community to also, like, you know, as a place to centralize resources and links and things there, like for example, the grants, right? So if you want some help, financial assistance through the grant programs to get your house up to code, there are resources like that available, just in case you didn't know. But more importantly, I want to start a community there. I want to be able to have conversations there. I want people to come and vent. Share your stories with us. Share your horror stories, the troubles you've had dealing with insurance companies, maybe perhaps dealing with local government agencies in the building process. So yeah, your information is totally going to be helpful to others who are just learning about this process. And again, that's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this now to start raising awareness, because as these regulations come into focus, we're expecting right now it's February of 2026. We're expecting these regulations to be published and set in stone, you could say, next month, March 2026. So as more people become aware of it, we're putting out the resources and information for them to find. And again, that school community with your story might be able to help someone, you know, figure out what they need to do next. And hey, if it helps you get it off your chest, I have no problem with that. In fact, if you want to leave any horror stories in the comments, feel free to go ahead and do so as well. So once again, my name's Chris. I'm with Zone 0 California. Go to zone0california.com and join our school community. Thanks. Hey guys, okay, so let me just drive around and show you this house right here. Let me take a slow turn around the corner here. All right, look at this house. Look, it's got wood siding and old wood fences and gates right next to it. Those are the wood gates, there's your siding. Another old wood gate right there. This house too, it's got wood siding. So listen, those are just 2 homes. Oh, here's another one right here, I'll show you. It's got an old wood gate right next to it. See right there, old wood gate abutting the structure there. So that's going to be just a small example. I'm like, listen, I could drive around for 10, 15, 20 minutes and point out more examples. In fact, as I turn around here, look at this house with the wood siding. So, you know, my guess is that if you live in a community that's got homes that were kind of built in a certain period, I'm gonna guess late 60s, 70s, maybe through the 80s even, it's got that certain style. You know, you're exactly the type of homeowner or property manager that's gonna have to be dealing with Zone 0 regulations, you know, very soon, and you may already have been. So I might be preaching to the choir here, but again, I'm just trying to raise awareness to the wider community, because we do expect all homes, buildings, properties in California to be compelled to be Zone 0 compliant by 2028, 2029. So it's coming, but we're starting with the very high fire hazard severity zones. That's what the state has seemed to indicate, that that's where they're going to be also prioritizing enforcement here very soon. So thanks guys, I'll talk to you later.